Hello, everyone. Good to be with you again. We're still studying marriage in the home. This is going to be lesson number 12. It may take more than one session in this lesson, but this is lesson number 12 in our series, and it's entitled How to Raise Children Right. This is one of the big problems we have, in our society today, both here in America, and I'm sure around the world in different societies, they're having the same problem as we're having with raising our children. G.K. Chesterton said, "We spend the first half of our lives fighting with our parents, and the second half of our lives fighting with our children." And this is a sad situation, especially if it's true. Very sad, but, I believe that it's fairly accurate that this is what goes on today in our society. You just look around us, and what do you see? You have to admit you see homes that are disaster areas. Husbands and wives, children, they're all having difficulties. Let me give you some facts. Now, these are, alarming, heartbreaking, really, facts. But while these statistics that I'm going to give you is true of America, if you take and look at these in light of your society, I think you'll find that percentage-wise, it's probably true of where you are. Now, in the U.S., there are 100,000 children that are in prison. Can you imagine that? 100,000 children that are in prison. Now, I'm not talking about reformatories, but I'm talking about real prisons. And this is a sad situation, but it's a sad characteristic of how we, are raising our children. 4 in 10 children live in broken homes. And the majority of these homes are broken because of divorce. 65 of 1,000 children between the ages of 7 and 11 have received psychiatric help. Can you imagine, when I was a child, I would have never thought in terms of having to go to a psychiatrist for some help. And my mother and father made sure that, I didn't need that kind of help. But this is the situation in America today. And you have to look at your society and see how close it is to being true there. The average age of children that begin smoking is 10 years of age. Now, hopefully it's just cigarettes, but a lot of our children are smoking more than cigarettes. They're smoking some kind of narcotic, marijuana, these types of things. 1 million girls will conceive and bear children out of wedlock. And these girls are between the ages of 12 and 17 years of age. And this doesn't include the number of abortions that take place. Now, what about where you are? Does this depict anything going on where you live? 1 in 5 children use drugs at least twice a week. Can you imagine? That was something that was never thought of with me as a child, and certainly was not thought of our children. 10 million minors in the United States have a venereal disease. That's so sad. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among teens. Can you imagine? Second leading cause is suicide. 10 to 15% of all children have considered seriously committing suicide. That's a sad commentary on us as parents and on how we, are raising our children. Juvenile delinquency is increasing 7 times faster than the population. what a sad, situation this is. But this is reality. It's what's going on, and it may be going on where you live. The truth is, we're not doing a very good job in raising our children. Listen to what the proverb writer said, Solomon. He says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he'll not turn from it. If this is true, then where does the problem lie that have produced the facts that we've just mentioned? Well, number one, it has to be with, failing fathers. Fathers are the ones that are supposed to provide, leadership, stability, character, and strength in the family. And yet too many families today are fatherless, being raised by a single parent, which is a mother. And a mother cannot give to children what a father can give. Absentee fathers are causing a great deal of these problems. Many fathers are too interested in sports and pleasure and hobbies, and they're too concerned with this to deal with their children as they ought to deal. Now, not just failing fathers, but the problem also lies with misguided mothers. Mothers are told that if they just do motherhood, that they're second rate, that they're second class. They've got, too much ability to spend all of their time in motherhood. And they're being bought into this. Mothers without careers are looked down on. And this is causing problems in our families and in the home. Women are being told that they just have too much talent and too many abilities, too many gifts to be wasting them on full-time motherhood. Isn't that sad? If you're going to bring children into the world, a mother, then you're to be a mother. If you're bringing children into this world and you're a father, then be a father. That's what's needed. In 1990, 45% of the working force in the United States were women. 45%. That means a lot of homes don't have full-time mothers. There was a bumper sticker that was seen on the back of a vehicle not too long ago, and it read like this: if a woman's place is in the home, why do I spend so much time in my car? And that's true. Women's place is in the home. Fathers are to be the breadwinners. Fathers are to, provide these abilities, and mothers are to be home to take care of their children. Listen to this, 6 million children under the age of 6 have working mothers. Now we wonder where the problem lies, in these broken homes and children that are having so many problems. Television is the tool that is used by, most parents today. It's become the major babysitter in most families. It destroys the minds of children because 88% of all sex on TV is outside the bonds of marriage. What is that saying to our children? And our children are watching, these programs. Alcohol is drunk 10-1 to any other beverage on TV. I'm a Hallmark movie junkie, and I watch mainly sporting events on TV and Hallmark movies because they don't have all of the sex and drinking and all that is in other programs. Even on Hallmark movies, I've noticed how much they drink wine. Almost, every gathering of people, they're drinking wine. And what is that saying to our children? There's almost nothing, that we're able to watch on TV today. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to use Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6 as our scripture for training our children. And training has to begin in childhood. And that's the reason Solomon made the statement in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. Train up a child in the way that he should go. This word train in the original language is a word that is also translated dedicate. Have we dedicated our children to God? And, a lot of parents, unfortunately, send their children to Bible study instead of taking them to Bible study. That was unheard of when I was a child, unheard of with our children. We made sure that we were there with them, and we discussed things that they learned in Bible study. It's important. They're children, and we need to make sure that we have dedicated them to the Lord. I can say for a certainty that my wife and I dedicated our children to the Lord. Not just one time, we dedicated them several times to the Lord. As they grew, it was a rededication. And today, I see the fruits of that. Our oldest son is an elder in the church. Our number 2 son, Kyle, was in ministry up until about 7 years ago, and he went into secular work. And some of you in Guyana may remember that when Kyle and Tiffany and their children lived there in Guyana and worked with the church. Our 3rd son is, a dedicated Christian, living the Christian life. Our daughter at present is living with us as she is, trying to purchase a home, and her son also lives with us. They're dedicated. And I'm so proud when I look at our 4 children that they are dedicated to the Lord. And I can say for a certain that this dedication started when they were very young. We would discipline them when they needed discipline. We would encourage them when they needed encouragement. But we made sure that our children were involved with God. And I know our oldest son, when he was about 12 years of age, he obeyed the gospel. Kyle, I can remember him being about 11 years old, and I had played on a church softball team, and we'd stopped after a game one night to get some milk on our way home. And when I got back to the car, I heard Kyle say, "Well, Dad doesn't care if I die and go to hell." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I need to, be baptized. I need to obey the gospel." Well, we went straight to the church building and baptized him that night. And Kyle has always been, very involved in the church. But all of this starts when our children are young. We can't wait until they get old to start, training them. Why start when they're young, when they're a child? Well, there's at least 3 reasons for this. Number 1, the correction factor. It's easier to correct a child when they're young than it is to wait until they're teenagers, or maybe even, older than that. You can change the direction of a small stream easier than you can change the direction of a mighty river like the Demerara or the Essequibo. Why is that? Because they're young, they're not, as dynamic as those mighty rivers, and they can be changed. A small twig can be bent, but a tree cannot be bent. When things are young, they're correctable. And we need to think about this and correct our children and help them to grow so that they, are someday going to be saved eternally, but also they're going to show God to their community. Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 18, discipline your son, for in that there's hope. Do not be a willing party to his death. The implication is, if we're not training those children when they're young, then we're going to be, a partner in their death. Parents often come to us ministers as counselors, and they ask the question, what am I doing wrong with my children? Why are they, on drugs? Why are they drinking? Why are they lazy? Why are they dishonest and rebellious? And you want to say to these parents, when did you start your discipline? And if they answer, truthfully, they say, well, we waited till they were older. You're not going to change children very much when they are 16 and 17 years of age. You've got to start a lot younger than that, to be able to lead them to the right kind of actions in their lives. Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 24 says, he who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him. It's amazing that people will say of their children, well, my children are little angels, and they don't need to be corrected. Well, Solomon was a lot wiser than what we are, and he was also being guided by inspiration from God, and he says, you need to take care of this when they're young. You need to start, that discipline then, because that's when it's going to have the most good. It's also a wonderful time for communication. It's a time of curiosity. You've had your children say, why, Daddy? Why, Mother? And a lot of times our answer to that is, stop asking so many questions. Well, they're inquisitive. They're curious, and they're wanting to know. And when they ask, it's up to us to instruct them, and to instruct them, correctly, as God would have them instructed. When the children of Israel were going into the promised land, God instructed them to take some stones and pile them up as a commemoration of what God had done for them. And listen to what he says, about this. He said, when your children ask, what do these stones mean? You answer them. Because this is a time of instructions. And Joshua chapter 4 and verse 6 says, in the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Then you give them an answer. And God knew that they were inquisitive. And God knew that they would be asking. And as a result, he said, you tell them what these things mean. That's instruction. And that's what we need to do with our children. They're inquisitive, they're curious, and we need to instruct them and help them. And it's also a time of conversion. We need to pray that our children become obedient to the Lord, in early age. I was 12 years of age when I was baptized. Wednesday night during church services, I responded. My parents had asked me about it, had answered some questions, had instructed me, and so here I am, 12 years of age, and I responded to the invitation, and I was baptized. When I was about 21, I was in the military, and I was teaching some of my friends. I'd invited them to church, and they had asked some questions, and I was teaching them. And I had two families, husband and wife in both of them, that said, we want to be baptized. And I remember when the second one was baptized, I asked the preacher, I gave him a hypothetical, and I said, what if you were young and you didn't understand fully the things that you're teaching today? What would you tell that person to do? And he said, I would tell them what I'm fixing to tell you. Do you want to take care of that right now? And I said, yes, I do. So at 21 years of age, I was immersed a second time. Now, I don't know which one God, took as being the one that was genuine, but God knew that I wanted it to be right. Whatever it took, I wanted it to be right. And so I didn't want to be teaching other people what they needed to do, and I really hadn't, done it myself. In Mark chapter 10, verses 13 through 16, Jesus bids little children to come unto him. And his disciples, didn't want this to take place. They said, he's too busy. He has too many things to do. Don't be bothering him with the little children. And Jesus makes the statement that as adults, he wants us to become like little children. And that's because these little children are innocent. Yes, they need instructions. Yes, they may need, the discipline of a spanking every now and then. And it's amazing that, children have the ability to obey when they're young, and they'll remember that. Training up a child in the way that he should go, then they'll also obey, at an early age. And that's a thing that we need to be concerned about. Three things. There's a correction factor. That's the reason we need to train children when they're young. It's a wonderful time of communication. That's important. And number three, it's a time of conversion. Now, when we get together next time, we're going to end with this. When we get together the next time, we're going to talk about correction with consistency. That's extremely important and is useful for, training our children the way that they should go. It's been good to be with you. I hope this has been beneficial to you. And what I would encourage you to do is go over the things that we've talked about and discuss them as a church family and see if they don't help you in your training of children in your church family. Good to be with you. Look forward to us being together next time. And until then, may the good God of heaven bless you and keep you.